I never thought submitting my resignation would lead to the most powerful woman in biotechnology standing at my apartment door at 11:15 p.m. on a rainy Thursday night. But there she was, Dr. Elena Navarro, 46 years old, brilliant, intimidating, and usually composed of equal parts steel and ice. She was gripping my cheap doorframe with a hand that I noticed with a jolt of shock was shaking. Her hair, usually confined in a severe, architectural bun, was loose, damp from the Seattle rain, and clinging to her cheeks. She wasn't wearing her lab coat or her terrifyingly sharp blazers. She was in a raincoat thrown over a t-shirt, breathing hard, looking at me with eyes that were wide, dark, and desperate. "I accept you quitting, Daniel," she said. Her voice was low, roughened by emotion I had never heard in the boardroom. "What I don't accept is losing you." The silence that followed was heavy, filled with the sound of rain hammering against the roof and the frantic thudding of my own heart. She wasn't talking about work anymore. She wasn't talking about my role as executive assistant. And God help me, I had been waiting 3 agonizing years to hear her say those words. I'm Daniel Park, 30 years old. For 3 years, I've been the invisible force behind Elena's revolution in cancer research. I've watched her from 6 feet away, memorizing the way she takes her coffee black, 2 sugars, always in a ceramic mug, the way she rubs her left temple when the board is being difficult, and the way she sometimes looked at me when she thought I wasn't paying attention like she was seeing someone she shouldn't want, but couldn't help wanting anyway. I had quit that morning because I couldn't survive it anymore. I couldn't sit across from her in glass-walled meetings and pretend my heart wasn't breaking every time she smiled at someone else. I couldn't watch her leave the office alone every night and not follow her. I couldn't be the work husband who was never allowed to be the real one. But I didn't know that my resignation letter was just the first domino. The second one was about to fall, and it was going to shatter the carefully constructed walls we had both built around our lives. To understand why she was at my door, you have to understand the tower. Meridian Biotech occupied the top 3 floors of a glass needle piercing the gray sky of downtown Seattle. It was a monument to modern science, all sharp angles, chrome surfaces, and expensive abstract art that looked like it cost more than my parents' house. It was a place of sterile professionalism, where emotions were checked at the security desk in the lobby. Dr. Elena Navarro's office was the crown jewel. A corner suite on the 40th floor with panoramic views of Puget Sound and the Olympic Mountains. On clear days, the mountains rose like jagged white teeth from the blue water. On days like today, they were ghosts behind the mist. I remember my interview clearly. It was 3 years ago. I was 27, holding a degree that didn't quite fit the job description and wearing a suit that was slightly too tight in the shoulders. The interview lasted exactly 15 minutes. She didn't look up when I entered. She was reading a report, her red pen hovering like a hawk over the paper. When she finally lifted her head, those dark, assessing eyes seemed to catalog every nervous tick, every drop of sweat, every insecurity I had. "Why do you want to work for me, Mr. Park?" she asked. Not, "Why do you want to work for Meridian?" I abandoned my rehearsed speech about career growth and synergy. I decided to tell the truth. "Because I read your paper on T-cell modulation in solid tumors," I said. "Because you're not just running a company, you're changing the fundamental way we treat death. And I want to be part of that. Even if my part is just making sure your calendar runs smoothly so you can focus on the science." She stopped twirling her pen. She studied me for a long, uncomfortable minute. Then, the corner of her mouth ticked up just a fraction. "You're hired. Start Monday. Don't be late." The first year was a masterclass in professional distance. I became an extension of her will. I scheduled her meetings with military precision, managed her inbox, and acted as the gatekeeper to her time. I learned her rhythms better than I knew my own. I knew she needed absolute silence until 9:30 a.m. I knew that if she hadn't eaten by 3 p.m., she would get a migraine. So I started quietly placing protein bars and tea on her desk at 2:45 p.m. I knew she stayed late every Tuesday to work on grant proposals because she hated doing them during the day. I was good at my job. exceptional, even, and that was all it was supposed to be. But proximity is a dangerous thing. I started noticing the cracks in the armor. I saw the exhaustion in her posture when the door closed after a board meeting. I saw the sadness in her eyes when she got off the phone with her ex-husband regarding her kids. I saw the way she would look out the window at the rain, looking so profoundly lonely that it made my chest ache. I told myself it was just admiration. She was 43, then, successful, wealthy, and my boss. I was 27, renting a one-bedroom apartment, and her subordinate. It was impossible. It was cliché. It was forbidden. But the heart is a traitorous organ. It doesn't care about HR policies or age gaps. It just wants what it wants. The shift happened slowly, then all at once. It wasn't one big explosion, but a series of small tremors that eventually caused the earthquake. The Boston incident. 18 months in, we traveled to Boston for the International Oncology Summit. Elena was the keynote speaker. We were staying at the Fairmont Copley Plaza, separate rooms, separate floors, everything proper. At 11 p.m. the night before her speech, my phone rang. Daniel? Her voice was tight, bordering on panic. My laptop died. The presentation won't load on the backup. I don't know what to do. I'll be right there. I went up to her suite. She opened the door, and for the first time, I saw Elena Navarro without the armor. She was wearing yoga pants and an oversized MIT sweatshirt. Her feet were bare. Her hair was down, cascading over her shoulders in dark waves I'd never seen before. She looked younger, softer, and incredibly vulnerable. I'm sorry, she said, ushering me in. I know it's late. It's fine. We sat on the couch. Her laptop was open on the coffee table. I sat next to her too close. I could smell her scent, not the expensive, sharp perfume she wore to the office, but something softer. Jasmine and vanilla, soap and skin. I fixed the issue in 10 minutes. A corrupted font file. When I turned to tell her it was done, I found her watching me. Not watching the screen, watching me. Her gaze was intense, searching. You always save me, she whispered. That's my job. Is it? She reached out, her hand hovering over the trackpad, and her pinky finger brushed against the back of my hand. The contact was electric. It was barely a touch, but my entire arm seized up. The air in the room suddenly felt heavy, charged with static. We sat there, frozen, the hum of the hotel heater the only sound. I looked at her lips. She looked at mine. Elena. I started, my voice failing me. She pulled her hand back as if burned. The professional mask slammed back down, but I saw the flush on her neck. Thank you, Daniel. You should go. Big day tomorrow. I left, but I didn't sleep that night. And neither did she. I saw the light under her door at 3 a.m. when I walked down the hall to get ice. The microphone. 3 months later, she was doing an interview for 60 Minutes. The crew was setting up in the boardroom. Elena came out, looking impeccable in a navy suit, but she was fidgeting with her lapel mic. Here, I said, stepping into her personal space. I reached for the mic wire. I had to lean in close, intimately, close to thread the wire under her lapel and clip the battery pack to the back of her waistband. My knuckles grazed the soft skin of her waist through her silk blouse. I heard her breath hitch. I looked up. Our faces were inches apart. The studio lights reflected in her dark eyes, which were blown wide. I saw it then, undeniable, raw want. She wasn't looking at her assistant. She was looking at a man. Is it fixed? She breathed. Yes, I rasped, stepping back quickly, my hands shaking in my pockets. You're good to go. The late nights. It became a pattern. We both found reasons to stay late. We would be the last two people on the 40th floor, the city lights twinkling below us like a galaxy. We ordered Thai food and ate in her office, talking about everything except work. We talked about our kids, Jake and Sophie. We talked about my parents. We talked about art. One night in December, during a snowstorm, she was rubbing her neck, grimacing in pain. "You're tense," I said. Without asking, I walked behind her chair and placed my hands on her shoulders. She stiffened for a second, then melted. She dropped her head forward, exposing the elegant curve of her neck. "Oh, God," she groaned softly. "Right there." I massaged her shoulders, feeling the knots under my thumbs. Her skin was warm. The sound she made, a low, throat hum of pleasure, shot straight to my groin. I wanted to lean down and press my lips to that spot on her neck. I wanted to spin her chair around and kiss her until we both forgot our job titles. "Daniel," she whispered, her hand coming up to cover mine on her shoulder. "Yeah? We should stop." "I know, but I don't want to." She turned her chair. We were alone. The building was empty. The snow was swirling outside. She looked at me with such longing it terrified me. Then my phone buzzed. A text from my roommate asking about rent. The spell shattered. We pulled apart, mumbled goodbyes, and fled to our separate lives. The breaking point came 3 weeks ago. Elena had just secured $50 million in funding from a Singaporean investment firm. It was the culmination of 2 years of brutal work. After the investors left, I found her in her office, staring out the window, crying. "Elena?" I rushed to her. "What's wrong?" "I'm just—" She turned, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so tired, Daniel. Everyone thinks I'm made of stone. Everyone wants a piece of me. The board, the investors, the staff. I have to be Dr. Navarro, the icon. I can't just be me." "You can be you with me," I said softly. I pulled her into a hug. It was instinct. She collapsed against me, burying her face in my shoulder, soaking my shirt with her tears. I held her tight, stroking her hair, whispering that it was okay, that she was safe. She pulled back, her face inches from mine. "Do you know how dangerous you are?" she whispered. "What? You see me. You're the only one who really sees me. And God, I want." "What do you want, Elena?" "You," she choked out. "I want you. I've wanted you for so long it's driving me insane." I didn't wait. I crashed my lips onto hers. It wasn't a tentative first kiss. It was an explosion. It was 3 years of suppressed desire. 3 years of almost moments. 3 years of professional distance incinerated in a single second. She tasted like coffee and salt. She gripped my hair, pulling me closer, her body molding against mine. For 10 glorious seconds, everything was perfect. Then she shoved me away. "No," she gasped, backing up until she hit her desk. "No, we can't, Elena." "I'm your boss," she cried, her voice rising in panic. "You're 30. I'm 46. Think about what people will say. Think about the board. They'll say I'm having a midlife crisis. They'll say I'm abusing my power. I can't risk Meridian. I can't risk my reputation. I can't." "I don't care about the board," I said, stepping toward her. "I do." She held up a hand. "Please, Daniel, just go. Please." I left. I walked out into the rain and didn't look back. The next morning was hell. We avoided eye contact. And then, at lunch, I saw it. I was walking to my car in the parking garage. I saw Elena standing by her Tesla. Leaning against the car, laughing, was Dr. James Chen, the head of oncology. He was 45, handsome, successful, appropriate. He touched her arm. She didn't flinch. She leaned in, smiling at something he said. They looked perfect together. They looked like a power couple. They looked right. I hid behind a concrete pillar, my heart turning to ash. I realized then that I was deluding myself. She could have that an easy, uncomplicated love with an equal. With me, it would always be a scandal. With me, she would always have to fight. I couldn't do it to her, and I couldn't watch her choose him. I went home. I opened my laptop, and I typed my resignation letter. Dear Dr. Navarro, please accept this letter as formal notification that I am resigning from my position as executive assistant. I walked into her office the next morning and placed the envelope on her desk. What is this? She asked, reaching for it. I'm leaving, Elena. She opened the letter. Her face went pale. Because I can't do this anymore, I said, my voice steady despite the shaking of my hands. I saw you with Dr. Chen yesterday. You looked happy. You deserve someone like that. Someone appropriate. Someone who doesn't put your entire career at risk just by holding your hand. Daniel, James is just a colleague. He's a contemporary, I corrected. He's safe. I'm not. I love you, Elena. I love you enough to walk away so you don't have to make a choice that destroys you. You don't get to decide what destroys me, she whispered. I'm doing this for you. I turned to the door. My 2 weeks' notice is in the letter. Goodbye, Elena. I walked out. I felt like I had just cut off my own limb. That brings us back to the door. 11 hours after I quit. My apartment was a mess of packing boxes. I was planning to leave Seattle entirely. The rain was pounding against the glass. When I opened the door and saw her, my first thought was that something terrible had happened at the lab. Elena? She pushed past me into the apartment, dripping water onto my cheap laminate floor. She looked around at the boxes, and a flash of pain crossed her face. You were really leaving, she said. I told you I was. I went to the board, she said, her voice trembling. After you left, I called an emergency meeting. My stomach dropped. What did you do? I told them. She turned to face me, water dripping from the ends of her hair. I told them that my executive assistant resigned because of a personal conflict. They asked what kind of conflict. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. I told them that I had fallen in love with him. I stared at her. The world seemed to stop spinning. You? You told the board? Elena, they'll crucify you. They'll force you out. They tried, she said with a humorless laugh. Old man Sterling suggested I was compromised. He said a relationship with a subordinate is a liability. He said you were probably using me to get ahead. He said it was embarrassing. See? I shouted, frustration boiling over. This is exactly why I quit. To protect you from this. You should have just let me go. I don't want to be protected if it means being alone, she shouted back. She closed the distance between us, grabbing the lapels of my shirt. I stood there, Daniel, and I looked at those gray-haired men who have prioritized profit over life for 20 years, and I realized something. I have given everything to that company. My marriage, my youth, my time with my children. I have nothing left to give. She looked up at me, her eyes fierce and wet. I told them, accept his resignation if you must, but if you try to stop me from being with him, you will have my resignation too. My knees nearly gave out. You threatened to quit Meridian? Elena, that company is your life. No. She shook her head, tears spilling over. That company is my work. You are my life. I didn't realize it until you walked out that door today. I went back to my office, and it was silent. It was so loud, that silence. I realized I could win the Nobel Prize. I could cure cancer. I could make $1 billion. And none of it would matter if I couldn't come home and tell you about it. She cupped my face with her cold, wet hands. I'm 46 years old, Daniel. I have stretch marks. I have baggage. I have a complicated life. But I love you. I love you so much it terrifies me. And I am done being afraid. Elena, I accept you quitting as my assistant, she whispered, leaning her forehead against mine. But I don't accept losing you. Please don't go. Please. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I kissed her. It wasn't like the kiss in the office. This was a surrender. I lifted her up, she wrapped her legs around my waist instinctively and carried her to the bedroom, kicking the packing boxes out of the way. We made love with a desperation that bordered on religious. It was messy and real. She was self-conscious at first, trying to hide her body in the dark. But I turned on the bedside lamp. I wanted to see her. I kissed every inch of her, the silver stretch marks on her hips, the scar on her knee, the laugh lines around her eyes. "You are beautiful," I told her, worshipping her skin with my hands. "You are the most beautiful thing I have ever seen." She cried then, soft, happy tears, and held on to me like I was the only solid thing in the universe. "Stay," she whispered into the dark hours later, her head on my chest, our limbs tangled together under the duvet. "I'm not going anywhere," I promised. The next morning, the reality set in. We drank bad coffee in my kitchen, and we made a plan. "We do this right," she said, her CEO mode kicking back in, though she was wearing my t-shirt. "You can't work for me anymore, obviously, but you don't have to leave the company. You've got a degree in economics you never use. Marketing needs a strategist, or business development." "Biz dev," I said. "I've been reading your partnership contracts for 3 years. I know them better than the lawyers." "Perfect." The HR meeting. Walking into HR holding hands with the CEO was a surreal experience. The HR director, a woman named Janice who lived for rules, looked like she was going to have a stroke. "Dr. Navarro," Janice stammered. "This is highly irregular." "It's love, Janice," Elena said calmly. "And we are disclosing it per Policy 402, Section B. Daniel is transferring to business development. I will recuse myself from all reviews concerning his performance and compensation. He will report to Jake Fontaine, not me." Janice blinked. "I see. Very well." The gossip. The transfer was the easy part. The social fallout was brutal. The rumors started immediately. Boy toy. Sugar baby. Midlife crisis. I walked into the break room 1 week later. 2 junior researchers were talking by the coffee machine. I heard he slept his way into the promotion. One sneered. "Yeah, she's old enough to be his mom. It's gross. What does she see in him?" They stopped when they saw me. The silence was deafening. I poured my coffee slowly. I turned to them. "She sees someone who respects her," I said calmly. "And for the record, I took a pay cut to move to biz dev. Check the records." I walked out. My hands were shaking, but I held my head high. That night, Elena found me on the roof deck of the building. She knew about the rumors. "I'm sorry," she said. "I can fire them." "No," I said. "If you fire them, you prove them right that I need you to protect me. I have to fight my own battles, Elena. I have to prove I belong here." And I did. For 6 months, I worked harder than anyone in that building. I closed 3 major partnership deals. I brought in revenue. I earned my place. Slowly, the whispers stopped. Respect started to replace the gossip. The family. The final boss wasn't the board. It was her children. Jake, 22, and Sophie, 19. We met for dinner at a neutral location, an Italian restaurant downtown. Jake stared at me with open hostility. "So," he said, stabbing his pasta, "you were mom's assistant, and now you're dating her. And you got a promotion?" "Jake," Elena warned. "It's okay," I said. I looked Jake in the eye. "I know how this looks. I know you think I'm using her. I know you think I'm a gold digger." "Are you?" Jake asked bluntly. "I fell in love with your mother when I was making $45,000 a year," I said. "I didn't fall in love with the CEO. I fell in love with Elena, and I plan on spending the rest of my life proving that to her. And to you." Sophie, who had been quiet, smiled. "He looks at you like Dad never did, Mom." Elena squeezed my hand under the table. Jake didn't smile, but he nodded. "Okay, but if you hurt her, I'll kill you." "Fair enough," I smiled. Epilogue. 6 months later, It's Sunday morning. We live in a townhouse in Queen Anne now. We needed a fresh start. Not her penthouse. Not my apartment. I wake up and the other side of the bed is empty. I put on a robe and walk out to the balcony. Elena is there, wrapped in a blanket, drinking coffee and watching the sunrise over the Cascades. She looks peaceful. The tension that used to live in her shoulders is gone. I wrap my arms around her from behind. She leans back into me, fitting perfectly against my chest. "What are you thinking about?" I ask. "The board meeting yesterday," she says. "They approved the new immunotherapy drug. We're going to trials. It's going to save thousands of lives, Daniel. I knew you could do it. I couldn't have done it without you." She turns in my arms. Her hair is silvering at the temples. Now she stopped dyeing it because I told her I loved the silver. She looks regal. "You keep me sane. You make me happy. You make me real. I love you, Dr. Navarro." She smiles, that brilliant, unguarded smile that she only gives to me. "I love you too, Daniel." She kisses me, and it tastes like coffee and rain and a future I never thought I'd get to have. They say you can't choose who you love. They say forbidden fruit tastes the sweetest. They say age is just a number. They're right. But they forget the most important part. Love isn't about the grand gestures or the dramatic rainy nights, though we had those. Love is about the Tuesday evenings doing dishes. It's about being the person who knows how they take their coffee. It's about seeing someone really seeing them when the rest of the world just sees a title. I looked at the woman in my arms. I looked at the life we built out of the wreckage of rules and expectations. "Ready for breakfast?" I asked. "Starving," she said. We went inside, closed the glass door against the rain, and started the rest of our lives.